Hello, thank you for joining us for University of Maryland's College Access Central, and welcome to the College Search, a step-by-step guide. My name is Danielle Audley, and I'm the coordinator of college recruitment in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. I'm excited to be sharing information with you today about the college search process. So let's get started. During today's presentation, we'll discuss what students can do each year during high school, explore best fit, and discuss different types of campus experiences. It's really never too early to start planning for your future, and there's a lot that students can do during freshman and sophomore year. The first is definitely look to establish relationships early. That transition from middle school to high school can be really challenging and intimidating, but there's a lot of adults in your high school who are there to help. Guidance counselors and teachers can be great resources, not only if you have questions, but if you have challenges as well. They're also great because they might provide a lot of different opportunities throughout your time in high school. Also, later in your career, when you start applying to colleges want to get an outsider's perspective about who you are, not only as a person, but as a student. And if you've established those relationships early, chances are they know you really well and can write a really strong recommendation letter. So definitely get to know them. They're there to help. Next, you want to definitely make sure you're studying and striving for excellent grades. Thinking later on, you're thinking about college. College is an academic institution, and it's going to get a lot harder after high school. So you want to make sure you're establishing those study skills early on, getting those excellent grades early on, so you can show the colleges that you're adequately prepared to go on to the next step. It's okay if it's a bit of a transition from middle school to high school, but make sure you figure out what's going wrong, what's going right, get into your groove and find out which study skills work best for you so you can show colleges that you're ready to take on the next challenge. The next, understanding the classes that are offered in your interest. I think sometimes students don't really appreciate that a lot of times in high school, there is a little bit of flexibility. Of course, there are certain classes that you have to take to get that base knowledge, but a lot of times there's a lot of flexibility in terms of extracurricular, not extracurricular, but electives, so you can figure out what you're interested in. So definitely take the time to understand what's offered and think about yourself as a student and what you're interested, or just be open to trying new things, because these different classes are a great way for you to figure out what you might be interested in studying later on in college. Talking about those, finding your interests, extracurricular activities is a great way to do that. When you get into high school, you may have been involved in middle school a bit, but getting into high school, there might be a lot more options for you. And again, freshman, sophomore year, this is the time to explore. Later on, we want to see you more focused in and leadership roles. But right now, as a freshman and sophomore, try to figure out what might be interesting for you. It's okay to try a bunch of different things out because you might not know what's interesting. So definitely take advantage of the extracurricular activities, maybe community service, find different things that you might like and test them out. It's also a great way to form relationships with friends and peers. Taking on a challenge can look different in a lot of different ways. So taking on a challenge, we put that as just whatever works for you. And that means a challenge in your life, in the context of your world. So maybe taking on a challenge means adding an additional rigorous course. Maybe it means challenging yourself to create a new app, or maybe volunteering or taking an internship somewhere. Whatever that means to you, just try to encourage yourself to challenge yourself, because again, as you get older, you're going to be challenged in school, in college, so you definitely want to start preparing early. And lastly, you want to inquire about the PSAT and the National Merit Scholar Program. The PSAT is like a practice SAT exam to kind of give you an idea of how you might test or what your scores might be when you take the actual SAT. And there's a scholar program where you could potentially earn scholarship money. So definitely look into that early so you can know what potential scholarships you might earn later on. Next, we move into your junior year. And I know some of you have maybe already heard junior year is a little bit challenging. There's a lot that's happening, but it's where you can make your final preparations. So first, definitely, like we were talking earlier, stay involved in those extracurricular activities. But by this point in your high school career, start honing in on what's really interesting to you. Maybe don't be involved in as many, but more become a leader in some of those activities and show what your passion is. you have a lot of time, you don't have a lot of time, I'm sorry, on your hands between school and all these extracurriculars and studying, and your personal life. So you want to make sure that you're being very thoughtful and looking to become a leader in some of these things, and engaging in things that you are passionate about. Don't just stay involved in a ton of different things because you think colleges will think it looks good. We're more impressed with quality over quantity. We want to see, are you becoming a leader? Are you taking up a leadership role in some of these activities, and just showing more of a commitment? So figure out what's interesting to you. As we discussed earlier, you're going to an academic institution, so you want to continue to maintain that challenging academic course load. We're looking to see if you're increasing that rigor during your time in high school. So if you start with, maybe a handful of rigorous courses during your earlier times, look to increase that as you get to your junior and senior year, because again, you want to challenge yourself and make sure you're preparing for college. Your resume is something that colleges are typically going to look at. So we want to see, what have you been involved in? So there's a lot that's happening during the year, and we discussed those extracurriculars, but maybe consider building your resume over the summer. There's a lot of great opportunities that you might be able to take advantage of. And that can, again, look different in many different ways. So whether that's looking for a job, again, starting an organization or a volunteer program, working with your church or local organization, or maybe doing an internship or research. Again, everybody's situation is different, but consider figuring out a way to build that resume over the summer, finding a way to stay engaged over the summer and prepare. Next, during your junior year, your SAT or ACT, it's a great idea to start taking one of those later in your junior year. And don't be afraid to take them multiple times. I know when I was going to college, I took an SAT the first time just to kind of get an idea. And then I took it a couple more times because I knew there was a score that I was looking to get. And so I wanted to give myself the best chances. What's great nowadays, I know sometimes it might be difficult to have access to like a tutor or some of these courses, but there's free tutoring on College Board through Khan Academy. So definitely a resource to check out. And there's a lot of, if expenses are challenging, look for SAT or ACT fee waivers. So it might be a little bit easier on easier expense burden there. And lastly, the college search. So at this point, you might have already been thinking about colleges a bit, but now during your junior year, it's definitely time to start really thinking about the colleges. You want to use a lot of your resources to figure out kind of what things are important to you and start thinking about the different types of schools you might be considering applying to. At this point in your career, it's great to connect definitely with your guidance counselor or your college and career counselor, some mentors along the way just to kind of get their feedback, because you want to start exploring colleges that would be a good fit for you. We'll talk about that in depth a little bit later. But starting right now with a spreadsheet would be a great idea. So a spreadsheet where you list the colleges you're interested in and put some important parts about that college. So maybe where it's located, the cost, deadlines, what they require, if there's any special deadlines for things like scholarships or honors programs. Getting that spreadsheet together early will be really helpful for the next year, which we'll talk about soon. And the other big thing when you do the college search, we definitely want to make sure, keep your family included. This is your decision, but it does involve your family. So talk to whoever is helping you make this decision and figure out, what do they recommend? What's important? Cost is probably going to be a part of that discussion, because I know colleges try to keep the cost down as much as possible, but it's still an expense. So figure out what's in your price range and what's actually possible. Having those conversations early is definitely helpful and makes it a lot easier when it gets to your senior year. And now we've hit your senior year. This is the time where the college application process really starts. So as we just mentioned, late in your junior year, early into the fall of your senior year, you're figuring out where are you going to apply. You want to have several different options, but you don't want to apply to so many different schools that it just becomes overwhelming. So determine where you will apply, have a few schools that you feel more comfortable with, have some that might be a little bit more challenging to get into, have some options there. We discussed the SAT or the ACT exams. Like I said, definitely it's a good idea to take at least one during your junior year, but then don't be afraid to continue to take another one or so into the fall of your senior year. Again, a lot of colleges will super score these exams. So what that means is we'll take the highest of each section. So they'll take, for the SAT, the highest reading, the highest math, even if you took it multiple times, and they'll make a new total composite. So don't be afraid to take them multiple times, and don't be afraid to try each exam. Some people have a preference, whether it's the SAT or ACT, they do better one than the other. And again, going back to those expenses, we understand that it can be an expense, so definitely look into options regarding fee waivers, but definitely don't be afraid to take them multiple times if you can. For recommendation letters, we talked about this earlier, building those relationships with your guidance counselors and teachers is huge. Now it's getting to the point where you want to make sure, at least by this point, if not earlier, you're talking to your guidance counselor, you're talking to whatever teacher you want to write a recommendation letter for you, and giving them enough time to write a really strong recommendation letter for you. You don't want to go to them, a week prior and say, hey, can you write this letter? You want to give them enough time to really think through and be able to talk about all your strengths. So if you haven't already, a lot of schools will start talking about it junior year, but definitely early by your fall of your senior year, make sure you've decided who you're going to ask and ask them early. We talked about finances, so something definitely to consider is the FAFSA form. So that's a free application for federal student aid. That becomes available on October 1st. Definitely consider filling that out because that is where you see if you're considered for any federal aid. Like we said, colleges, they try to keep the cost down as much as possible, but it is still an expense. So you want to do everything in your power to see what you can do to bring that cost down, including also looking for merit scholarships. So these are scholarships that you can earn based on your grades and your test scores. You want to investigate what kinds of scholarships are out there. Some institutions you might be automatically considered, like the University of Maryland. If you apply by our early action deadline, you're automatically considered for a merit scholarship. You don't have to do anything separate, but apply by that early action deadline and be complete by that deadline. Some schools, there might be an application process. Also, there's some programs maybe within the college that have other scholarships that you might want to look into. So again, University of Maryland, some of our academic colleges have their own set of scholarships. So do your due diligence and search and see what that's involved so you know and you're not missing any of those deadlines. And that's where, again, going back to that spreadsheet you might have made during your junior year to add that information so you can keep everything on track. And lastly, definitely by the fall, so a lot of college applications will go live in the summer, typically early August. So I highly recommend at least starting it then, if not submitting it. I always recommend submitting it early and before the school year. It would be best, simply because there's a lot going on your senior year. It's super exciting. You're going to be in challenging courses. There's a lot happening. So anything you can take off your plate, I highly recommend. So if the college applications become early in the summer, I say, why not take advantage of that and get that done while you have a little bit of downtime potentially. A lot of the early action deadlines or early decision deadlines are going to be early in the fall. So like October, November, maybe even early December. So again, going back to that spreadsheet, figure out when the deadlines are and make sure you hit those deadlines. It's extremely important. Then we get into the spring of your senior year. So you've already put the applications in. So the next thing you want to make sure you do, we say this in the spring, but even after you submit the application, you want to check on those applications. The hardest thing for me to see is a student who put the application in, but then never checked in on it to see if all their additional documents got in and they weren't able to be reviewed. So check on those applications, make sure you submitted everything that's necessary. What's great nowadays is a lot of colleges do have some sort of portal where you can log in and figure out what documents might still be missing. So definitely take advantage of that. You can also call or email admissions offices. We are humans, we have hearts, we want to help. That's why we're here. Our job, we want to help people through the college process. So if you have questions on whether or not your application is complete or not, definitely check in with the office to make sure, because you don't want to miss those deadlines. We talked earlier about that FAFSA deadline, or FAFSA form, I'm sorry. The UMD's priority FAFSA deadline is January 1st. This is another one where each school is going to be a little bit different. So check, that's when that FAFSA form, that free application for federal student aid is due to be considered for federal aid. So definitely check with each college to see when their deadline is and make sure you've got all of that squared away, including those merit scholarship applications if necessary. We say check your email. This is extremely critical. At this point, if you haven't already created a professional or college email, it's definitely a great time. We are going to use whatever emails on the application. So make sure, again, this is your process. Yes, your parents or family might be helping you along the way, but make sure it's not their email. Make sure it's yours, because that's how we're going to be communicating with you. I know sometimes I reach out to students and if I have questions. So it's really important to check that email. Later when decisions come out, a lot of colleges will send an email saying that the decisions are ready. For University of Maryland, we'll send an email that says, hey, your decision's ready, and then we tell you to go back into the application portal to check where that decision is. So definitely keep an eye on that email. And what's really important with this, if there's an email change or an address change, reach out to the academic institution that you've applied to so that they are aware, so that any sort of communication is going to the correct place. As you get later into your spring, I know some of you might have heard of something called senioritis. This is where, it's the spring of your senior year. You're thinking, all right, I put my applications in, I'm almost done, and your brain wants to turn off. But definitely don't do that. I always remind students, you are getting ready to go to college in the fall, hopefully. And if you start to kind of turn off your brain and relax now, it's going to be that much harder when you start up in the fall. College, like I said, it's going to be a great experience, a lot of opportunities, but a challenging curriculum. So you want to do everything in your power to keep on that rhythm and keep working hard. So it's not even more difficult to get back into the rhythm in the fall. So keep working hard, keep those grades up, you got it. And then lastly, by the spring, you get to decide. You've done all the hard work, you've put in the application, you've gotten your decisions. Now you've got the difficult decision of deciding, where do I want to go? Where do I want to attend in the fall? So again, going back to that spreadsheet, finding out for those schools that you were admitted to, find out what's their confirmation deadline. When do you have to tell them if I'm interested in attending or not? For University of Maryland, it's May 1st. So you have to make a decision if you're attending or not by May 1st. So keep those deadlines in mind. And then after you make that decision, celebrate all of your hard work. You've done a great job. Now, going back, we talked a little bit about best fit. So best fit, I know when I was going through the college search process, and, when you start thinking about colleges, people would ask, what are you looking for? And I originally had no idea. I had this idea that if I went on campus, I would just kind of figure it out and adjust to whatever. I also would hear that people kind of made you feel like when you step on campus, you'll know. And I remember thinking, is the ground going to shake? Like, what's going to happen when I get there? How am I actually going to know? So I really had no idea. But then as I got working in an admissions office, and of course later in my life, I realized there's a few things here that are really great tips of things to consider that will really help you figure out what you're looking for. Because I know even for myself, when I thought about this now, I'm like, oh yeah, I did have some idea, but I really didn't know how to put my finger on it. So when people say exploring your best fit, we want to find what's the right fit for you. And these are some great things to consider when you're thinking about your best fit. The first one being your location. So a lot of people actually do care about location. I know, again, I was like, oh, I can adjust to anywhere. But when you think about it, where do you want to be? Do you want to be in a rural setting? Do you want to be in a city? Do you want to be in the suburbs? Do you want to be in the mountain, near the mountains or the ocean? There's a lot of choices here. So sit and think, where would you like to be located? Where do you want to spend the next 4, if not more, years, if you're going on to graduate school, spending your time? What kind of setting do you want to be in? What does the campus look like? Do you want the buildings all in one area? Do you want them more spread out? What do you want that to look like? What's great about the state of Maryland is that there's a lot of different types of institutions that fit different types of locations. So whether you're from the state of Maryland or maybe you're from another state, if you happen to be visiting Maryland, you can explore a lot of different colleges in the state of Maryland and hit on a lot of these different types of campuses and locations. So it's a great thing about us is that we're surrounded by a lot of different types, so you can definitely explore, but figure out what exactly you're looking for in just the physical layout of the campus. Next, again, we talked earlier, you're going to an academic institution. So yes, there's going to be a lot of fun and opportunities and making friends and all these different parts of college. But at the end of the day, you're going so that you can get that college degree, right? That college degree to help you land a job. So you want to consider, which academic programs does this institution have? Do they have what you're looking for? What if you change your mind? There's a lot of students who go to college thinking they want to major in one thing, but then they change their mind. So it's really important to pick an institution that you like, number one, and that has at least the program that you're interested in, but then also has a lot of options. Maryland has over 90 different majors and lots of different minors as well. People can major and minor and double major. So what's nice is for students who are coming to Maryland, even if they've decided maybe coming in, they have one thought of what they want to major in, they do have the option, if that, you know, you might change your mind, they can change majors to something else, and we have a lot of different offers. So definitely check that the institution you're looking at has some choices for you, because again, there's a good chance what you want to major in when you're, 16, 17 might be different once you become 20. So just look for options. The next is those career building opportunities. Again, we're preparing you to go out into the workforce. So you want to get, there's a lot of learning that happens inside the classroom, but there's also a lot of learning that happens outside the classroom. So is there a lot of research that's happening on campus? And can undergraduates participate in that research? Are there opportunities for internships where you can go out into the field and test it out and see if you like it and kind of get that feel for what it would be like in that workspace? Are there any workshops to help you figure out what to wear in an interview, workshops, resume building workshops, all these different things to prepare you for the job market? Do they have those resources for you? And finally, that alumni network opportunities. Is their alumni network strong? Are they there to support you? Can you network with those alumni to figure out, maybe they can help you get a job in the future? These are all things that you can do to kind of help set yourself up for a great career. So you want to see, is the college offering a lot of these resources to support you? I know right now it's a little bit, of a scary time in high school, maybe whatever transition you're making. But once you get into college, there is going to be another kind of transition when you transition out of college. So you want to make sure that the supports are all here so that you feel comfortable transitioning into the real world, into the workforce, and you feel prepared. Next is thinking about that size. So that kind of ties a little bit in with the location, the size, and I think sometimes this is kind of hard to gauge, but sometimes some people have a good concept of what they're looking for. But how large is the student body? Is it 7,000? Is it 17,000? Is it 57,000? How big is that student body? And thinking about, what do you feel comfortable with? Maybe you came from a small high school and you want to go to a really large college, or vice versa. Maybe you came in a really big high school and you want a smaller, intimate setting when you go to college. What's the average class size and student to teacher ratio? Figure out what you're comfortable with. Do you want to be in a class of several hundred where you can kind of sit back and just observe and absorb like a sponge? Or do you want to be in those smaller classes where you can engage in conversation, everybody in the class? Or do you want a hybrid of both of those? Do you want the opportunity to do both? This is, again, where you have to sit down and think and figure out what's going to be best for you. And then lastly here, those extracurriculars, thinking about outside the classroom again, but more on the fun side, right? You're going to be doing, the academic work, you're going to have those career building opportunities, but then you're also going to have some downtime, some fun. This is where you're going to meet friends, you're going to explore passions you never knew before, get involved in community service and leadership organizations, all these awesome things. So you want to figure out, like, what's the student body like? What can I do outside the classroom? Do I feel comfortable here? So these are some things to definitely start thinking about or consider as you're applying into the colleges or making the decision to figure out what's going to be your best fit college. And lastly, those campus experiences. Nowadays, I know things are a little bit different, but there's still a lot of ways you can experience campus and figure out, get a lot of information. So some tips along the way. If you're taking a tour right now, that might be virtually or in person, ask the student tour guide about campus life. A lot of the campus tours are given by students who are living the life that you will lead someday. So ask them about their experience. If there's something you're really interested in or wondering about, just ask them, because that could be you someday. So you want to find out what their experience is like and if you can see yourself at that campus. And again, they know it best. They are choosing to tour you on their campus because they really enjoy it. So just Be open to asking them questions. I know your parents or family members might have questions, but remember, you're going to be going to college. This is going to be your process. So figure out what's important to you and don't be afraid to ask them. They're going to be, students who are just like you. Checking out the admissions office calendar to see if they have any events. A lot of us are hosting different types of events or ways for you to explore campus, whether it's an application workshop or an information session or an open house. Figure out what they're offering and definitely check it out. There's a lot of great ways to learn about campuses, again, virtually or in person. So see what's being offered and don't be afraid to register and attend, because there's a lot of great information that you can gather. Looking for ways to connect with the staff or students. If you're interested in a particular area, find out if there's a way you can connect with them. Similar to the tour guide, these people are going to be in the department that you are looking to study in. You want to find out, what's the staff like? Do I feel like I can make a connection here? Are the students happy? What's their experience like? What's their course load like? Do they have a work-life balance or classwork-life balance? Get a feel for what their program is like by talking directly to the source. So see if there's any way that you can connect with them, again, whether virtually or in person. Confirm with the admissions office requires an interview. Some colleges do, whereas others do not. So see if that's something that's part of their process. University of Maryland, it is not. But again, if it is part of their process, you want to figure out when's the best time to interview and how that process works. And lastly, make sure you follow campus departments on social media to get a feel for campus. There's a lot of great social media platforms where now you can really see what campus is like, see what kind of events are happening, and hear from student stories. So definitely make sure to follow them so you can see what's going on. And that's the end of the presentation. Best of luck with your applications. And I'm going to come back and just say thank you so much for joining us. Please make sure you check the website to see more events coming out each day for College Access Central. If there was a question that you don't get answered throughout any of these presentations, please feel free to reach out to us at our email, applymaryland@umd.edu. That's applymaryland@umd.edu. Also, check out our website, admissions.umd.edu, for a lot more information about our process. And then finally, make sure you're checking us out on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, @ApplyMaryland, to see what's going on campus and see different tips and opportunities to learn more about the university and help throughout the process. So thank you so much. Again, best of luck, and let us know if you have any questions. Have a good day. Bye-bye.